Hello and welcome back to All for United, and more specifically, welcome back to Timeline Talk. We're going to be discussing a few rumours that have circulated today surrounding a certain Northern Irish manager in charge of Leicester. Screams David Moyes to me, but I'm sure we'll get into it. Obviously going to discuss a little bit about the press conference from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today as well. A few interesting bits to take from that. I've got a good panel of guests lined up, and I'll introduce them straight after this.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Here we have it. Was Alex, brilliant to have you on. We're expecting one more. I'm sure he'll be here very, very shortly. But we'll get straight into it. Brendan Rodgers to Manchester United. Straight off the bat, what are you thinking about these rumours?
Obviously, there's a lot of rumours circulating at the moment because of Ole's job, and there's a lot of instability at the moment. However, regarding Brendan Rodgers, I do think he's a good candidate. He wouldn't be my first option if we're gonna put him in tiers. However, I wouldn't say no to Brendan Rodgers.
Fair enough. Same question to you then, Alex. Brendan Rodgers, given that we're working on the assumption that Ole's gone, I think he's a dead man walking. Would you be happy to see him come in?
It's a difficult one because I think part of the reason that Ole survived the weekend-ish, I mean, if he even has survived, he's basically his own caretaker manager at this point. But part of the reason for that, I feel like, is because there isn't really a standout candidate. Like, there is no sort of, that's who we go with, because, obviously there's been a lot of talk around Conte, but Conte brings with him, he's got baggage that he brings with him everywhere, just like Mourinho did. And then, Brendan Rodgers he's a great manager. He's done a really good job at Leicester. But, if we're wanting, there's been a lot of talk under Ole about, we need a manager who's going to get us over that line, get us winning those trophies. Is that really Brendan Rodgers? I mean, he did oversee the biggest, pardon the pun, slip-up in arguably Premier League history. So, I'm not sure if he's necessarily the man that we should be going to. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't know who that man is, because there's not really a clear, obvious option.
I think with Brendan Rodgers, that was early in his career because it was just after the Swansea job. I think that Liverpool job, it was too big in that moment of time. Similar to David Moyes at United, I feel he got the job just a little early in their own personal development. Obviously, though, with David Moyes, he had more experience. With Brendan Rodgers, like you did mention, United fans are looking for someone that can take you over that line. With Rodgers, it's difficult because Leicester do play a good brand of football. They do play within a system. They do recruit well. So there's a lot of elements there you'd like at United. However, with Brendan, the past couple of seasons, he's fallen just short of fifth, just short of fourth. In the final couple of games of both season, he's had defeats, and that's made him miss out on top four. So there's that question there: can he get it over the line? Because he's done it in the cup, FA Cup, but that's a cup tournament. But can he do it in the league? And he's just fallen just short. So is he there to take United to that next level? He is an improvement on Solskjaer, in my opinion. But will he take us to that next level where we're fighting against Tuchel, Pep, Klopp? I think he falls just a bit short, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree with that. Like I said, I don't know if he's necessarily the man to take us over that line. As you said, I think I saw a stat on, I think it was Match of the Day at the end of last season, where it was like the percentage that the clubs had spent in the Champions League places over the last 2 years. And Leicester had spent like 90% of their time in the Champions League places over the last 2 seasons. We were second most, only like 60% of the time or something. And obviously both seasons they missed out because at the end of those seasons they sort of had monumental collapses, especially that first year. Was it 2 years back? When they they were like 14 points ahead of us or something ridiculous. And then we ended up finishing above them and getting third. And, that's a monumental collapse.
It is strange how it happened.
And we've seen it happen before because, like I touched upon, again, pardon the pun, but, he did slip up, or one of his players slipped up when he was at Liverpool. So,
yeah, well, listen, I'll introduce Phil. It's brilliant to have you on, mate.
Thanks,
as ever.
pleasure. Thanks, lads.
We'll flip it back to Ollie just for a second, because obviously I understand fairly recently you obviously interviewed him yourself, didn't you? So what have you made of the past week in the life of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of interviewing Ollie a few times, and I can only tell you he's a thoroughly decent human being. I mean, the person that I've been in touch with, he sent my kid birthday messages, everything. He's just and I know people are going to accuse me of having favoritism towards him because, he's been good to me and he's been good to my family. But my view on Solskjaer has been exactly the same as any other Manchester United manager. Until I see hard evidence either way, I will support him. And we talk about Brendan Rodgers, we talk about other managers, and for me, the problem with Brendan Rodgers, Pochettino, is exactly the same with Solskjaer. When things don't go well for you at United, your failures are amplified. And someone like Pochettino and someone like Brendan Rodgers, the fact that they haven't won anything would be a massive issue once United aren't playing well. And that would be, you need success to get you through those hard times when you're being questioned in the media. This is what one of the differences with Klopp and Guardiola is when they don't win the league. They've won the league. They've won European Cups. That gets them through hard times. That's why it's not an equivalency between Solskjaer finishing second and Klopp finishing third and him not having his job questioned and Solskjaer having his job questioned. There's a massive difference. Yeah. And so the fact that Brendan Rodgers has collapsed at Liverpool when they didn't win the league, when they should have won the league, he's collapsed at Leicester when they should have finished in the top four and didn't. Those things would be dragged up the minute United don't win. Same with Pochettino not winning the league in France. Those things would be dragged up the minute United don't play well and aren't playing well. And so for me, I think you need someone in a top job at United that has a track record that gets them through the hard times because you want to need it. So I think that's my issue. Pochettino is a sacked Spurs manager, and he's gone to a league where he's got every advantage in the world and still can't win the league. Brendan Rodgers is a good manager, not a great manager. Solskjaer's done a good job, not a great job. If you really focus up until the end of last season, something changed this season, right? We talk about whether Ronaldo or not. Solskjaer, if you look at him visibly, this is taking a huge toll on him. How can it not? So for me, I think when Liverpool were here under Dalglish, it was painful, but they respected him. I really don't understand how we are in an era where we're so polemic, where fine if you don't rate the guy, but can you give him some humanity? Because the toxicity that I see on social media is a disgrace. We've got people out there that think that their entertainment takes priority over everything else. I've got people on my timeline saying they couldn't care if Solskjaer died. Now, the fucking think your entertainment supersedes someone's life shows how utterly fucking deranged you are. And it shows that we are living in an era where we've got grown men who don't have the emotional maturity to accept that not everything goes their way and that sometimes you lose. And with thinks that, Newcastle fans, my entertainment supersedes someone's human rights. This is insanity. And it, quite frankly, is not something I want to be a part of. It's actually really rendered Twitter relatively unusable. I tweet something and I put my phone down and go away because I can't read the negativity that comes with it. I lamented the fact that with this impact on Solskjaer's health yesterday, and it was met with a bunch of people saying, I don't care if he dies.
Yeah, I saw
nothing in common with you at that point. You are scum. You are fucking scum.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah. I think we're in this world now where it's become, and it's ridiculous, we're in this sort of world where it's become almost like a competition to see who can be more nasty, who can be more horrible. And, you saw it the other week with Steve Bruce. Say what you want about Steve Bruce, whether he's a good manager, a bad manager, or whatever, but he turned around in an interview. And said, I'm just glad that my parents aren't alive.
Yeah, it's mad,
because the way I've been treated would have broken their hearts. He shouldn't have. Like, I'm glad that my parents are dead because
This is Jesse Lingard and Phil Jones who have to do this too. It's insane. It's insane. It's disgusting.
He's a human being. They're all
No.
human. Like, at the end of the day, you can criticize Ollie's tactics. You can criticize whatever you want. But at the end of the day, the most ridiculous thing is the people criticizing him. He's a bigger United fan than any of them will ever be in reality. He cares about this club just as much as we all do. And this last week will have hurt him. Look at the man who walked off that pitch, who walked off that sideline on Sunday. Yeah. That was a man who looked broken, who looked, he called, even Jamie Carragher, of all people, turns around on Sky Sports after his post-match interview and went, I felt for him there because this is the club he loves and this is a day he'll always remember, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And people don't care because people forget that, you know what, he may be a football manager or they might be footballers who are paid insane amounts of money that the rest of us can scarcely imagine. And they may be, on this pedestal that we look at. But fundamentally, they're still human beings. They're still human beings. Yeah. We're talking about the same fans who was it after the Europa League final. After the Europa League final, people were sending David De Gea's messages saying that they hope their newborn child dies. Why? Because he missed a penalty and didn't save a penalty. Mm-hmm. Like
these are people that actually
Martial misses was getting it as well.
Yeah. These are people that I actually want United to lose so that they fuck off, so that they are because I want them not associated with anything that is successful with United. We keep asking, if United lose, will Solskjaer be sacked? How many defeats would it take to get rid of you? Because I would take that. Because quite frankly, what I see in these people is I really don't understand how they don't comprehend a simple sentence. It's only football. Now, I want United to win, but not to the point where I don't care whether a human being lives or dies. And, when a football opinion triggers you to the point where you're going to waste death or call someone a pedophile, it really says an awful lot about you as a human being. First of all, what it says is you're utter scum, right? And there's this competition to stand out in social media to see who can be the most outrageous and thinking calling people pedophile is funny. You'll find it funny whenever a lawyer document arrives on their door and they have to defend it in court, because I've got someone that's got one coming and he's going to find out real fast why you don't call people a pedo for a football opinion, because he's going to have to defend that in court because that's defamation. And I'm telling you right now, that's exactly how I'm dealing with this, because you see the stuff that's, it's not just me. It's everyone here. Anyone that has a social media account. I have a child that read that pedophile comment, which is what bothered me the most. And came to me and said, what's that all about? I'm trying to explain to a young teenager that this is what people do because they don't agree with you on a football opinion. They call you a child sex offender and think it's funny, right? You see that, mate? I don't want any of those scumbags being associated with Manchester United when they are successful, because they're vile. And I want them to, I'm sorry, I know I speak to other people, and they get this constantly. And we have lost the ability to respectfully disagree or agree. I read football opinions on social media all day that I find utterly ridiculous, but never has it compelled me to call someone a pedophile because of it. And then I wonder what type of person does something like that. Because happy people don't do this.
Yeah.
If you're happy in your life, you don't do stuff like this.
The thing is, you can question the sustainability of the football that's been going on for like a season or so. You can question the tactics. You can question the personnel that he plays. Does he play too many forwards that are not coming back in position? You can question those matters. You can question that would Van Gaal or Mourinho got the same leeway, if you want to call it, or one for a better word, would they have got sacked in this situation? You can question those things, but
sure, mate,
I don't understand why you need to go personal.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't understand. I saw some of the, like, it was late though. It was at night time. I remember actually saw a tweet came on my timeline, and then I was reading the comments. I'm not going to mention the names because I'm just not going to mention the names. But you obviously know who the names are.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you can't even engage. Like, what do you do? Like,
I know.
So you just carry on scrolling. You can't even have a you can't communicate with these people.
But like, and that's okay. I've got question marks about Solskjaer myself, plenty of them, right? But what has happened to us is as species that social media is a mirror to human behavior, right? It just shows who we are. And this has infested everything, politics, every other sport, by the way. It's not just United, it's everything, right? And I don't know if social media is partially responsible for this and the anonymity of the fact that you can be anything and say anything and not take accountability for it. I really don't know. But I just don't understand what type of, I've been as low as a human being can be. I've done some horrible things. I've been an addict. I've done it's just never, and I've been terrible pain in my life. I've never been compelled to do that to someone. It makes me wonder what type of person can't accept that maybe, if you want to express a counter opinion to me, that I want you to do that, because my opinions, sometimes I'll abandon something if someone tells me something that's better than what I believe or accept to be true. But if you're going to turn around and disagree by calling me a pedophile, we have nowhere to go there. You know what I mean? And so that is unfortunately the experience of too many people. And that is why social media, that is why footballers have PR departments running their accounts. That is why so many people who aren't hiding behind anonymity aren't running their accounts anymore because of this. Because there's this constant abuse. There's criticism and abuse, two different things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Solskjaer talked about this earlier in his press conference where he said, look, we expect the criticism. That comes with territory. He knows in that job, it's a public job. You're constantly evaluated publicly. It's hard, right? And every mistake at United is amplified. But by the same token, every positive is exaggerated. So they expect that comes with territory. But whenever you've got people, Jesse Lingard, Solskjaer, other people talking about just the litany of obscene abuse, whether it's racist, racial, gender-based, doesn't matter. Yeah. It is just so disgusting. And these people who think they've got any relevance or anything to add to the conversation or should be appeased in any way,
thing is, Phil, these people, they've got no substance about them. They don't know what it is. For example, you'll see Phil Jones mocked, and then I tweeted not last year, about 6 months ago. I go, people need to relax over Phil Jones. You're not even thinking about the mental health of Phil Jones. The guy cannot even come on social media. I tweeted this. It went not viral, but it got a few likes. It got a bit of attention. I was glad it got attention because attention regarding mental health, and it needs to be there. You'll get likes for a football opinion or tactics or whatever, but then there needs to be like attention towards people having empathy towards some footballers like Phil Jones. Then I'm just thinking, he's come back from injuries. His career in his head has not gone to plan how it initially started. 100%. Any of us like that have ambitions of careers, or do we want to be like teachers or journalists and so on? It'll break your heart if you can't achieve your goal and you got you take bumps. So I'm thinking, do you know how strong Phil Jones is to come back? That I admire the guy for coming back, because it applies to me personally. It applies to maybe Phil, and applies probably Alex and James. So it really gets to me.
I think it's the lack of being able to understand the actual difference between, because you try and call somebody out for straight up hatred, and it's, I'm allowed to criticize them. Mm-hmm. Yes, you are. You are allowed to criticize them, but there's a big difference between criticism and just vile abuse. Because criticism is, I can tweet and say I don't agree with that substitution. This is what I think. Now the substitution that I might have made in that situation, that might have worked, or it might have gone horribly wrong. I don't know, because we've all got opinions, and that's it. We all have opinions, and you're allowed to criticize something. Mm-hmm. But there's a huge difference between criticism and abuse. I mean, I take it back to, going back to the Europa League final. I remember there was a bit in my head when I think it was Tuanzebe stepped up to take a penalty, to keep us in it. And there was a bit of me that thought, not just, obviously, I hope he doesn't, obviously hope he scores so that we stay in the shootout, because obviously I want us to win the cup.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of me that thought, if he misses, I know what's coming online.
It's sad. It's really sad.
And the fact that even pops into your head in that moment, that it's not just a case of thinking about the football. The fact that in your head you're thinking, if he misses or Fred misses, and then you saw it in the Euros.
Yeah.
You knew. I didn't need. As soon as Rashford, Sancho, and Saka were the ones that missed, it was like,
Yep.
we know what's coming,
Mhm.
and there's not a damn thing any of us can do about it, because it's going to happen, and it did.
One of the things that I lament, we talk about the United DNA, right? The things that we've lost over the years. One of the things that I lament the most is what we've lost amongst our fan base. There used to be a solidarity amongst United fans, right? I mean, I remember 1981 was the first time I ever set foot inside Old Trafford. And I was a kid, and I went to watch United Arsenal. It was one of Rocastle Chips Mega. It was the most amazing experience in my life. I remember walking through Old Trafford and just being astonished at how big it was and everything. It was just amazing. And I bumped into, I don't know, so many United fans from Manchester and all over the world when I was there, and they couldn't have been battered. I mean, none of them knew who I was. And I did feel a sense of kinship, seeing whenever I was going over after that, and by meeting all the United fans in bars and what have you. And it's been something throughout my life where maybe I bump into a stranger, and one of the things that we share is the love of Manchester United. There's been this amazing, I'm sure it happens with other football clubs too. But today, I don't recognize these fans, so-called fans, that are... They really aren't United fans. They're fans of club or players. They're fans of individuals who just happen to be at United.
The fans of what? The fans of the idea behind.
I don't even know what their supporters are.
I've seen people genuinely go, "Oh well, to hell with the academy. To hell with our record of having youth academy players and what is it since 1938? Oh, to hell with that. I just want an FA Cup or whatever." But
I don't even understand what they support anymore.
It's all to do with the thing about the trophy. Like, obviously, we want to win trophies. Of course we do. Of course we do. But they like the idea of being able to go, "Oh, we won the trophy." It's not really. Yeah, and the problem is half of them are so young.
Yeah. And that's what I assume.
They probably don't even remember us winning the league under Fergie, because they were probably like 5 at the time. And they probably don't really remember it. They definitely don't remember that, what? Sir Alex Ferguson is the greatest manager that's ever walked this earth. He always will be. That's it. That end of story. Goodbye, the end. But you know what? He wasn't perfect. And he made mistakes. And if you listen to him now, he admits it.
Well, every human being makes mistakes.
He spoke about the 2011 Champions League final, and we lost arguably, one of the greatest club sides ever.
Yeah.
And we got torn apart by, Messi, Xavi, and Iniesta, three of the greatest players ever. But Fergie turned around and went, I should have done that. I second guessed myself. I should have done this. He knew, he feels that he made mistakes. And, the players have said that they thought he made a mistake that day. But just because, it's that sort of, there's now been this sort of, I saw it last night. I tweeted something last night, and it was somebody had posted a video of the 5-3 defeat to Leicester under Van Gaal. And it's that famous clip of Rooney as captain just going absolutely nuts on the pitch and just shouting at everybody and going absolutely mental. And somebody posted it last night and went, "Oh, this is how our captain acts. He wouldn't put up with this." And I reposted it last night and I said, it's funny how opinions change. Because I remember when that first happened at the time, and I remember people saying that that's not how a captain of Man United acts, and how he was a disgrace to the shirt and a disgrace to the armband, because that's not how a captain acts. Because in 2015, at that point in time, it was seen as the thing to do, and it was popular to hate Wayne Rooney. Now it's not, so people now agree with it all these years later. And that's the thing, it's the in thing. The in thing is to hate on Ollie. Whether he didn't deserve hatred. He doesn't deserve any
No, of
hatred
course not.
whatsoever. He deserves criticism.
Let's even say
Criticism is the
let's
difference.
let's even say he's the worst version of what his worst critic thinks he is. So what's he guilty of? Not being good enough? Okay. You know, he didn't do anything, didn't do a Tommy Docherty, he didn't send the physio away on a scouting trip so he could bang his wife. You know, he didn't do what Ferguson did and essentially bring the Glazers into the football club on a personal issue, right? I mean, he didn't do what Mourinho did, where Mourinho threw United on the bus to save himself. You know, you'll notice Solskjaer turned around saying, this is 100% my responsibility.
Yeah.
Mourinho never did that. You know, so, and in my opinion, he's too loyal. He's, environment of respect and everything. There has to be a balance, because if it's too nice, players are like kids in a kindergarten. They'll play, and when it comes down to accountability, they'll point fingers. Like, you see all the leaks over these team meetings on Monday, which sounded to me like a teenage bitch session, to be honest. It sounded to me like players looking for to blame anybody but themselves. It's your fault for picking Maguire. It's your fault for giving him a captaincy. It's your... What? You want to talk to me now about Harry Maguire being captain? But it wasn't an issue last season? Paul Pogba wants to come out and talk about the sun spreading lies, but he didn't want to come out and tell Mino Raiola when Pep Guardiola offered him, said he was offered to Man City before the derby, didn't see fit to come out and say this is lies, I'm offended. Didn't see fit to come out and say I'm offended at all the other times Mino Raiola came out and linked him with all sorts of football clubs and slandered the club. But now he's offended.
It's selective outrage.
Well, it's like, listen, first of all, if anything, with what Pogba did the other day, finally, he finds a voice to come out and criticize media that doesn't accurately represent the situation, but certainly didn't do it whenever Mino Raiola was saying stuff. And it needed to be condemned, by the way, but left Solskjaer in a situation in press conferences to do that. You know, blame the media on reporting stories. No, it's not the media's fault. That's Paul Pogba's fault. I own an agency. I represent people. I've never represented anyone that didn't want to be represented a certain way because I get sacked. I don't speak on behalf of my clients and stuff that it doesn't echo their views because I get sacked.
The biggest example of that is Judge Mendes, Ronaldo's agent. Yes. He's all these Mourinho's agent, all that different stuff. He used to be David De Gea's agent. And then in the latest round of negotiations a couple of years ago for De Gea's contract, Mendes went off book and was basically trying to get, all this money for himself. And United were kind of going, I don't know if that's... And De Gea was going, I just want the contract. I want to sign. I want to stay. And Mendes was going to go, oh, yeah, but if you go, then I can get this and all that. De Gea sacked him. That's why Alvarez, the goalkeeper coach, left in the end. Yeah. It wasn't because Ole sacked him. It was because Alvarez was pals with Mendes and was supposed to get a cut in of the money. And basically, because De Gea sacked him, Alvarez fell out with De Gea because he felt that De Gea had betrayed Mendes or whatever. And De Gea was like, no, he betrayed me because he was supposed to be representing me. And instead, he went in there to represent himself and to represent his own sort of what he wanted, not what I wanted. And that's what De Gea did. He sacked him because that's his agent. And his agent was paying his agent to represent him. And when he felt his agent was now representing himself as opposed to him, he sacked him. Because that's his prerogative. And he was right. If that's what he felt was the right thing to do, then it was the right thing to do. But Pogba everything that's been said by Raiola or by Pogba's brother or, X, Y, and Z, whoever's spoken out about Pogba, the fact Pogba says nothing, they're not, there's nobody think that if his brother was coming out and chatting nonsense that Pogba couldn't just phone him up and go, "Hey, bro, you wanna, I love you, but do you want to shut up?"
Pogba could stop it. Pogba could stop it if he wanted.
Of course
There's
he
no
could.
doubt about
He
it.
stop it if he wanted.
Yeah.
And look, I've met his people, right, a couple of times. That agency is actually run by a lady, the Rafaela Pimenta. Very, very, very intelligent lady. Speaks 6 different languages. She's Brazilian. She's a lawyer, and extremely sharp. And there's nothing that they don't do that isn't prepped or calculated. I've worked with them, and I can tell you that they are very methodical. If they don't allow anything. I've interviewed Pogba. They don't allow anything in the media. I mean, one of the preconditions of interviewing Pogba was pre-recorded, right? Same with Lukaku when they were representing Lukaku, because they want control over what gets said. Can't say this, can't say this, can't say this, can't say this. So if Managerial is saying something in public, you can 100% certainty know that it's endorsed by Pogba, right? They're very, very intelligent people. And these same people represent Ibrahimovic too. And they were the first ones really to go after FIFA. If you remember, Ibrahimovic was not happy about his, because I remember talking to him years ago about this. These people are very conscious of image. They're very conscious of how their players, because they don't just represent them in terms of their playing contract. They also represent their commercial, their image rights. So nothing, and Paul Pogba was probably their star client. It was from Ibrahimovic's old age, and they lost Lukaku. So they know what they're doing. And truthfully, Pogba never really wanted to come back to United. Real Madrid and Barcelona didn't come up with the money, and eventually he went. Exactly the same situation with Lukaku. I was with Lukaku when he did his United medical, and it was clear that he wanted to go to Chelsea and did not want to go to United. So these are the types of things United have to get away from signing players that are going United for lack of a better option. And the thing that concerns me with where we're at under Solskjaer is you have to give players a reason to join United other than how much we're going to pay you. They have to believe that they're going to be successful. This summer, United signed Varane, Sancho, and Ronaldo, all of whom wanted to come because United were close to winning 2 titles, not because they were offering the most money, right? Varane could have gone elsewhere. Sancho maybe not. Ronaldo didn't have to come back to United. So to me, United can't be in a situation in January where they go after players where they're miles off winning anything and saying, come to Manchester United. If you go back when Solskjaer got the job, they were talking about United are 3 years away from winning titles in 6 windows. I mean, what does that say to your current best players? I'm not sitting around here for 3 years in the hope that maybe we'll get it right. I'm leaving. I won't blame them. United have picked off players from other clubs for the same reason. So they cannot go backwards. They cannot go into a situation where when you're signing players, it's about how much you're offering them. And it doesn't have to be the same as it was under Mourinho for Solskjaer to go. I think that it's talking about, I think the reason why they won't sack Solskjaer right now is because they want to avoid an interim situation that they had before, so that somebody doesn't come in on a temporary basis, do well, and then they find themselves in exactly the same situation. I think that they need time to do this properly, but I don't think anyone's close, and they desperately don't want to sack Solskjaer.
Fair enough. Well, one manager that is rumored to be close. Then we'll talk about the main bit of the episode. Obviously, I'll preface this by saying, obviously, that this conversation we had earlier is not a nice conversation to have, but it's definitely one that needs to be had. And obviously, Phil, it goes without saying, myself and everyone associated with All for United hope that the difficulties you're going through get sorted out.
I mean, honestly, I appreciate all the love in the world. Vast majority of people on Twitter are class, to be fair. It's just, what I'm saying, and I'm speaking on behalf of everyone here, we all put up with it. It's just insane, and it's over the top. And so I learned how to switch off, mate. I put my phone down. I just stay off it. But for most people, it's It's ridiculous. It's so, but yeah, you're right. And thanks for that, James. And my love and support to anyone that's getting abuse from people, because we're all human at the end of the day.
Yeah, it goes without saying, of course. But yeah, listen, we'll lighten it up a bit. Brendan Rodgers, it still does feel a little bit wrong talking about other managers. Obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still the manager of Manchester United. I think the only reason we've gone with this, Tony, is because it does feel like the writing's on the wall. If you listen to the newspapers, so yeah, today Brendan Rodgers came out of the woodwork in terms of links. Apparently, he's now ahead of Antonio Conte on United's priority list. Obviously, we myself, was and Alex discussed it before you joined, Phil. So I'll get your opinion on it first. Is he a Manchester United caliber manager? Because to me, it seems like a second coming of Moyes.
Yeah, so I think we sort of touched on this in the beginning. So one of the problems with Rodgers and Pochettino is a couple of things. First of all, Leicester is not Manchester United. So going into a Manchester United dressing room with those players, those egos, they have to respect you right away. And usually that's done by, there's my medals on the table, right? It's hard to go in and get the respect of the world's best players when your best finish is the top four, right? That's it. I mean, Brendan Rodgers is a good coach. And by the way, there's a difference between a good coach and a good manager. But is that track record enough for him to command respect walking through the door? Is that track record? And see, it's not just about convincing fans. It's about convincing the club, because these people are going to come in and want big changes, big decisions. How committed are United if things aren't going well? See, they lost confidence in Mourinho halfway through, and so started half supporting him. No, I'll give you this prep, but I'm not giving you a player. Right? And really dragged it on far too long. And should have been gone long before that. So I think that they would like someone like a Pochettino or a Brendan Rodgers, because I think United fear a situation that they had under Mourinho, where they've got this powerful guy that they have to bend the rules for, because they usurped the power when Ferguson left. Right? No manager was going to come into United and have that power ever again. Right? And also it was convenient that David Gill left, so all that power went upstairs. But they don't know what they're doing. And this is the problem. So if they get it right, it'll be by accident, right? Because they don't know a good manager from a bad one. They don't know why someone's good and why someone's not good. I mean, it was evidenced by Van Gaal and Mourinho. He's a bit good. He's won things he'll do, but not any real methodical thought into. In order for Mourinho to be successful, you have to overhaul this entire team, because these are not his players, right? And I think they fear that would be the same situation with Conte. Conte plays a 3-5-2. United play. How many wingers do United have? They've got Sancho, they've got Ronaldo, they've got Rashford, they've got Green. Conte's not. I mean, I know he's a great manager, and maybe it's wrong to say he's negative, it's defensive, but Mourinho also put up good numbers in Serie A and La Liga too. I know Conte hasn't been in La Liga, but was deceiving. But I'm thinking that for United, they want someone that, like Solskjaer, that doesn't quite have the gravitas to come in and say, we're changing this football club to suit me, right? That it's someone that's going to go with it rather than go against it. I think Pochettino, Brendan Rodgers has that personality, whether it be more amenable, or Conte is probably someone they fear. Again, picking managers for all the wrong reasons, right? Someone that will be successful in working with them rather than someone's going to be successful with the football club. But lastly, we have to understand the metric of success for you and me is very different than what their metrics of success. We judge success and failure by a win-loss column. They judge success and failure by a profit-loss column. Big difference.
Yeah,
I think
it did. Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I think the biggest concern in terms of picking the next manager is that at the end of the day, it's still Ed Woodward making the. Ed Woodward is on the verge. Everybody think about this for a second. He was on the verge of selecting his fifth manager in his 8 years in the job. He took the job the same. David Gill left at the same time as Fergie.
Yeah.
He has been in the job 8 years. In that time, he is about to choose his fifth manager. There's not been one who you can go, that's been successful. There's been good bits. They've had Moyes I'm not sure Moyes could don't think there was any good bits really under Moyes. But in terms of, obviously, when the FA Cup was great under Van Gaal, when the Europa League and the League Cup was great under Mourinho, there's obviously been some, amazing nights under Ole. Your PSGs, your Roma, your, beating Tottenham in Mourinho's backyard last year. There's been great moments, of course. The fact that he owns Guardiola for some reason, I've never quite understood that one. But yeah, there's obviously been great moments, but none of them have been like really have been the right sort of 100% the right option. Because, like Phil touched upon, if they get it right, it's an accident. They didn't, had we got this right under Ole, had he kept we've progressed and then we've progressed. Had we kept progressing and Ole had been that man who, I think I speak for everyone, who we'd have loved him to be to get us back there, that the board would go, oh, well, see, we stood by him and all that. And it's like, but you appointed him for like 2 months to sort of, he was literally on loan from Mulder.
Yeah.
Basically loaned the manager. And then it sort of worked out. And then, had it worked out sort of in the end game, the board would have taken the credit. And really, it was an accident because they're not. Louis van Gaal said it best a few years ago in an interview when he was asked, quite simply, what's the difference between Bayern Munich and Manchester United? And he turned around and he said, Bayern Munich's a football club, Man United is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Because you know what? You can talk about Ole, you can talk about Mourinho, you can talk about Van Gaal, you can talk about the players, you can talk about whoever you want. But at the end of the day, the problem at United is so much higher. And I fear that it doesn't matter whether you bring in Conte or whether you bring in bloody Pep Guardiola. There's always going to be a limit, I feel, to how successful we can be again.
Pep couldn't work with his board.
Whilst we still have the ownership that we do, just this. There was too much in the summer. We re-signed, obviously we re-signed Ronaldo and we all got carried away in the romance of it, and it's Ronaldo and it's all very exciting. Of course it is, it's Ronaldo. But there was too much of because one thing that I'd like to quash is Cristiano Ronaldo, contrary to popular opinion, was not bought to be Man United's Tom Brady. He was bought to be the Glazers' golden goose. Because no matter how much we pay Ronaldo in terms of wages, he makes it up. The fact that was it a day after he signed, there was a queue halfway around Old Trafford to get into the megastore to buy a shirt. That's what the Glazers care about at the end of the day. He has been a roaring success from a commercial standpoint. And that's why they bought him. I don't think it was so much of it worked in Tampa, so let's try it at United. I don't think that was the thinking behind it at all.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple of problems also. Sorry, Westman, I'll let you jump in here in a second. When you look at United, this is a football club that, as great as Ferguson was, and he was great, one of the negatives was United never evolved as a football club. So essentially, by the time Ferguson left, 2013 it was, United were still a football club stuck in an era that was long gone, because most of United's European rivals had long since adapted to an environment where you've got a 3-year coach and they're gone. And because of that, they had structures in place that meant every time a coach was brought in, it wasn't revolution, it was evolution. So you weren't overhauling a squad. We talked about Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have a consistency from their under 10s all the way to the first team. They play the same way so that they can surgically take a player from a youth team, put them into the first team, and they know exactly what they're doing. It's a coherent strategy based around profit, from from football and merit, and it's an exceptionally run football club, and even the people on the board who are the financial people are football people, right, with financial degrees. So everything in that football club is tailored towards footballing success, and it shows, right? But United, when, like we said, so this is a football club when Ferguson left, grossly overestimated how good that first team squad was because United was won the league. So they didn't have any contingency plans with Ferguson, didn't have any contingency plans with the squad, right? And so United in many ways are still playing catch up as a result of it, because we've never really come close to getting it right. It's so Moyes came in, Moyes was sacked after 9 months because he wasn't Woodward's appointment, and therefore there was no negative reflection on him if he sacked him. Now, Mourinho got to stay longer than he did because, and I'm guessing, what I'm assuming this is the case, Woodward didn't want to take responsibility for sacking him because he hired him and he gave him a new contract. And I think a lot of that's the same as Solskjaer, where I don't want to admit I made a mistake again. Because I think it's fair to say at any other top European club, he would have been gone, right? There's no question about that. I don't think it helps Solskjaer that Tuchel came in and did what he did at Chelsea. I think it reflects poorly on him as well. So I think for United as a football club, you know, there's definitely been improvements over the last couple of years. The academy has got reinvested. You know, there's improvement on other aspects. I do believe they've improved significantly with recruitment. But I think that for United, would you trust them with a visionary appointment like a Nagelsmann or like a Hansi Flick or something like that? Not a chance, right? United just don't have the nous internally to know this is why he works. But you take a look at what those managers did. You take a look at what Jupp Heynckes did, right? I mean, they came in, won European Cups, won leagues, no problems, right? I mean, at United, I wouldn't trust them with a visionary appointment because they just don't have the intelligence to get that right. Mm-hmm. Also, Bayern Munich 100% support their managers. United sometimes do, sometimes don't. I think they support Solskjaer 100% because he's a nice guy, doesn't rock the boat, right? And United like that. If United want to add another, fixture in the US tour for commercial reasons, Solskjaer's not going to scream like Mourinho said. I want to be based on one coast, the West Coast. Where Solskjaer be like, okay, that's the football club. That's why I think they fear a Conte.
Yeah,
I think the other thing with the Conte as well is that Solskjaer was backed in the summer, largely. Like, there's no question about that. I doubt that was because the Glazers wanted to actually get us better, and I'm convinced that was because they were trying to save face after the absolute shit show that was the Super League. You know, the fact that the fans got the biggest fixture in English football cancelled or postponed would have scared them, because the fans showed what they're capable of, and that would have scared the Glazers. I think it frightened them, and they did the only thing that they could. They went out this summer, they spent some money, and because they know that most United fans are gullible, and they went, oh, look at us, we're going to back we're going to make all these investments to the stadium. Well, you gave it a paint job. I love Old Trafford, but it needs a lot more than a paint job. Anybody who goes knows that it needs a lot more than a paint job. I was at the it was last year because of the pandemic. In 2019, I went to the American football at Tottenham Stadium. And I mean, whilst I don't understand why you need a brewery inside a football ground, it was like, wow. Like, it was just, I was impressed because it was so impressive. That stadium is so impressive. And then it was just sort of like, and we're United in our stadium. I saw somebody saying about, I wonder who gave Ronaldo the tour when he returned. Ronaldo wouldn't have needed a tour. Everything's the exact same. Everything is the exact same. Nothing's changed, because nothing's been done. We've been at a standstill for years. And the thing is, the Glazers backed Solskjaer in the summer, but the previous summer they didn't.
No.
Like they bought, they did exactly what they did under under Mourinho,
Yeah.
when he finished second, and then they bought him. Was it what, Dallo and Lee Grant?
Fred as well.
Something like that. And Fred, was it Fred?
Yeah.
And then that was like it. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we've backed you," but you haven't. With Solskjaer, it was like, "We've bought you Van de Beek," who I'm not entirely convinced Solskjaer wanted, because if he wanted him, I'm not quite sure what the whole thinking behind that is. And then we bought Tellez, and we were pissing about with the fee, even though it was only like 15 million. And then we bought Cavani, which was definitely not in the long-term planning. Whilst it's worked, that was definitely a panic thing.
It wasn't the first options, was it? It was clearly the second options, yeah.
But it's, at the end of the day, if Glazers have a sort of structure where they sort of back a manager-ish 1 year, and then they don't the next year, and then they do it the next year. You saw with Solskjaer, he was backed sort of largely in his first year. He got Wan-Bissaka, he got Maguire, he got James, he got those signings.
Yeah.
And then the following year, he wasn't really backed, for the reasons we've just discussed. And then, this summer he's been backed. So he's been backed sort of, it's on and off, like it's been the whole way through. If they bring in a Conte doesn't accept that. If we go into if we bring in Conte tomorrow, and we go into January and he gets told, "Oh, there's no value in the market. You might want a midfielder or whatever, because you think that's what you need to take the squad to the next level." Well, there's no value in the market, so getting one next summer. Oh, well, we'll maybe buy you, one. You can get a midfielder, but you can only get one, and then you can't really get anybody else because there's no value in the market. Conte's not going to accept that. Like, he's not going to, it's the exact same, as you said it with, Guardiola wouldn't work with this ownership. No, he wouldn't, because, you know what, Pep Guardiola is a great manager. There's no doubt that Pep Guardiola is a great manager.
Man City planned for Pep Guardiola.
He's never been anywhere.
He's never been
anywhere where he can't just click his fingers and gets what he wants.
I would say a couple of things on that. I would say that there aren't any clubs out there that Conte can go to that doesn't have financial restrictions in the market, with the exception of City, PSG, or Newcastle. Right? Everyone's going to tell them the same thing. Liverpool, even Bayern Munich, Juventus, or at Inter Milan, we had to sell our best players. So I think that, and with regards to Van de Beek, to me, it's no longer important who signed him, because Solskjaer told him in the summer he wanted to keep him. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, he's Solskjaer's player, right? Because if he wasn't, he's had ample opportunity to get rid of him and hasn't. So at this point, he takes responsibility for everything that's going on. It seems inexplicable to me. You tell a guy to stay and then never play him. It's just a bizarre situation. With regards to, United Disneyfied their brand. They don't place a value on, the way they see it is, when you go and buy Coca-Cola, do you care about the facility that it's built in? The Glazers see the value in United's brand being Disneyfied, where they see the value in it's a globally recognized brand, just like the New York Yankees. And 90% of people who are aware of the New York Yankees aren't paying attention to the results. They just know they're a big, famous team, and they have commercial value. So, yes, results matter. Where the Glazers get nervous is when fans attack sponsors, because that has a very real cash value. And they get nervous when the optics on TV, like the green and gold, show that, because what they're selling is fan equity. They're going to sponsors and saying, "You sponsor my football club and my fans will buy your product because you're associated with my football club." But when you have no fan equity, you have nothing to sell. And so this is where it gets the Glazers really nervous. But they don't see any value in United investing in the infrastructure. You know, to me, I don't care whether Old Trafford is a big soulless bowl with a brewery inside it, but I do care about the facilities that the players are using. I don't care. You know, you look at the new camp; it's not exactly spectacular. You know, it's a big, antiquated bowl.
I don't think it needs a brewery, but I think there's
honestly,
things
man,
Old Trafford. They've had Planet. They could they could
I would rather
raise one stand and
but
it increases
that's
capacity, and they do little things. And I think, was it last year they said that the swimming pool at Carrington for the players' recovery was broken. And
that I support 100%. The players should
broken for like 6 months. It's like, and how the hell is that helping the team? The recovery pool was broken for 6 months. It's just I can understand that it broke because, well, things break. That's life. You know, your toilet breaks and you need that plumber in. That's understandable.
The stadium is.
But if your toilet breaks, I'm not sure about you, but for me, if my toilet breaks, I'm not waiting 6 months to get it fixed. You're penciling in a plumber for as soon as realistically as.
And United's slight defense on that, mate. Yeah. Because I agree with you, and there's slight defense in that. It was virtually impossible to get somebody to fix because it's a specialist. It's not everyone's running around in the UK with those pools. You have to get a very specialist plumber, and with the pandemic, it wasn't that easy to get someone. And I agree with you 100% on the facilities. I don't care about them tarting up the stadium personally, right? But I do care about the facilities that players are using. Yeah. Clearly, the ground should be maintained and it should be invested in. But I don't need it to look like Spurs. I don't need it to look like the Dallas Cowboys. Because to me, I think that you look at someone like the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, that is designed specifically to make money. For example, you can't park at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium because they don't want you tailgating and bringing your own shit in. They want you to buy that from them. It's not designed for convenience. It's not designed for comfort. It's designed for profit.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think, these are nice stadiums and everything, but I lament the move of a lot of football clubs leaving, like West Ham. There's these grounds to go to these soulless bowls that have no history, that ask West Ham fans that have to sit miles away from the field. You know, so to me, I think...
West Ham have lost a lot. I mean, the bowling, the Upton Park, that used to be. I wouldn't want to play every time United went there, especially if it was a weekday, especially if it was a night game.
Yeah,
I always thought it felt like we were going to war. It was like, this is going to be a battle. They don't have that. They don't have that now because
you felt your back was against the wall,
miles away from the field. But I think there is. What is it? The roof at Old Trafford has been leaking for.
Yeah, no question. Just my last point on this.
Things like that.
What's my last point on this? Arsenal moved to the Emirates, and what we were told is Arsenal need to move to the Emirates so that they have money to compete with the big boys. When's that going to happen?
Yeah,
because it didn't give them the money they supposedly needed to compete with the big boys, right? So, sorry, I don't mean, but just saying, like, to me, I think it. It generates more revenue for football clubs, but it certainly doesn't make its way back to the manager and buying players, that's for sure. And so ultimately, all I really care about is how my team plays. Do they win? Right? All the other shit, the bells and whistles, that's for tourists to me. I agree 100% that United should maintain their stadium at a bare minimum and should be looking to invest.
Well, that's the main thing, I feel.
I agree with that, and I agree that they should invest.
There was the photo that went. Was it the photo of somebody went past? Obviously, the back of the Bobby Charlton stand is onto a train line.
Yeah.
And what somebody took a photo as the train went past,
bad,
and the back of the stand was like rusty and whatnot, because that's the side of the stadium that nobody sees, so nobody cares. That's that's
really agree with you.
We don't need, like I said, we don't need. I'm not for 1 second suggesting that we move stadium. God no, but there's work that could be done to Old Trafford beside giving it a fresh bit of paint. The roofing has been getting rusty. Like there's no excuse for the roof getting rusty.
Yeah, no, I agree
There's
with
no
that
excuse for
100%.
the roof leaking. There's no, these things. I can understand that the roof leaks occasionally because, again, wear and tear, things break. But the fact that it was leaking for like a year, well, that's pathetic. Can you not get a roof in a bit quicker than a year later? Like that's for no other reason other than we just don't really care enough.
Yes, I agree with that, mate. I agree 100% on that. That's unacceptable.
We are, after all, talking about the owners who went into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, got the taxpayers to pay for the new stadium, but then paid for the pirate ship in the corner and went, "Oh, look at us, we're funding you." Why?
Yeah.
Because you bought a pirate ship. What are you, 5? A pirate ship, well, a cannon that goes off every time a point's scored. Whoop-de-doo. But the taxpayers paid for the actual stadium, so they paid for 90% of it, and the Glazers paid for the last wee bit that isn't actually needed.
It's very common in American sports.
It raises a question, doesn't it? Whoever we get in, realistically, with the Glazers at the helm, no one's ever really going to succeed, are they? I think a lot of fans would much rather see the back of the Glazers than Ole, which is pretty damning given the worldwide criticism, well, the fan base wide criticism that Ole's getting. So, yeah, we can have these discussions.
Behind the backs.
Yeah, we can have these discussions about would Conte work, would Brendan Rodgers work. It's going to take a hell of a manager to win the league with this team, and even if they do, they're not staying around for very long to reap the rewards. So, not an ideal state to be in. But yeah, we're getting towards the hour mark, so I guess that's probably a pretty depressing note to end it on. I think fair play to you guys. I think it's been a fantastic conversation. It's flowed very, very freely, and hope you guys have enjoyed it. I really hope the people watching have enjoyed it as well. We've got a lot of people watching, so I suppose that's a good sign. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe. As I said, thank you for watching. Thank you to you guys for joining me as well. But yeah, without any further ado, stay tuned for our Tottenham Hotspur reaction tomorrow, hoping for a bit of a better one than the last couple where we've been battered. But yeah, until then, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, folks.